What is up, everybody? This is Amulet from Badlands Backlogs, and we are doing Bleep Bloop Episode 3, my good podcast that we are growing slowly. This week we are doing, originally we're going to do a rundown of Xbox's 2023, but we switched it to looking back at our Fantasy Critic.
Ooh.
And joining me, I have special guest this week. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I am the girlfriend, betterwise known for those of you who have been checking out the website, the Badlands Backlogs. I am the Cozy Corner Gamer. I write some articles for the more cozy, casual, laid-back gamer. You can find me on Twitter at AndyCandy03. I know I retweet a bunch of stuff in the Backlogs page as well as my own content. I have been part of the Fantasy Critic League now for the second year in a row. And as you will be able to see with our upcoming, or with how the episode is going to be going when we go through our draft board and where we're all sitting on our draft, I won last year's Fantasy Critic by a landslide. Not even close. It was a total sweep, and this is again coming from someone who's a very casual gamer. I'm not big into the first-person shooters besides being cracked out at Fortnite for no reason, kind of like just a silly little quippy thing, and then the occasional Call of Duty game with Jacob here and his other friends. So
yeah, like I said, originally we're going to do sort of look back just because it's been such a crazy year, and there is some things I would like to touch on later, or I guess we'd start there and do the critic last. But again, this is episode 3. It is November 2nd, 2023. Past Halloween, we are pretty much at the end of the year for releases, besides like Call of Duty.
which we're not excited for.
No, and I think I honestly that's it. Alan Wake's out now. And I think with Alan Wake, we're now in. This is the first year, or like the most 90 plus reviewed games in a year in 20 years or something. I saw, so fun. As I said though, originally, if you're on our YouTube page, I did a video at the beginning of the year when we were first starting, going over the Fantasy Critic draft that we did this year. If you don't know, it's essentially fantasy football. Get together, you draft game releases releasing in the coming year, and score points based off of Open Critic reviews, which isn't always the best, but it's what we work with. And it's been crazy. There's been a lot of stuff that has come out that I didn't think would be good, and stuff that's just kind of surprised everyone, not just us, but the industry as a whole. Baldur's Gate 3, prime example, kind of came out of nowhere. But getting started, though, we will go kind of run through our initial list. Again, for mine, our initial 7 I had, we did initial 7 to start and picked up 7 throughout the year. So I started with Forza Motorsport, which only got 14. Kind of crazy. Especially coming off of Horizon 5 last year. Or was that 2 years ago already?
I think it was 2 years ago already.
Yeah.
My whole thing with the Forza Motorsport, though, is if you're not really super familiar with the Forza series as a whole, Motorsport to me feels like a completely different game than the Horizon games too. They're harder to get used to the game mechanics. It's more focused on the actual cars themselves versus the landscapes and all of the different fun challenges that you can do, and it's more of like a silly aspect to it with the different DLCs, like the Hot Wheels DLC and Lego DLCs from the past. So Forza Motorsport always seemed more like a quote serious game than the Horizon games do. So I'm not surprised that it didn't score that highly. I mean, I played it for just a brief bit. Obviously, Game Pass game, we were able to get it day one when it came out, and it was not my favorite racing game that I've ever played. I would much rather play a Horizon than motorsport, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's more of a simulation thing, more the hardcore audience. Um, it's just weird coming off of, I think it's been a 7-year hiatus for motorsport, and being one of the first things announced on. One of the first things announced for the Xbox Series console to come out finally and kind of meet middling reviews, and already a kind of up in the air year for them. But it's fine. Looks pretty. Looks great. Runs fine. I know they have plans at least for the next year to keep it updated, new free tracks, cars, and whatever else you want.
And don't get me wrong, it is an absolutely beautiful game. With the ray tracing that they have, with the engine that they're using on this game is insane. Half of the time you're racing or watching someone race. There was times he would be playing and I would look up from whatever I was doing and I would be like, that is not a video game. That is just, I'm watching a video of someone driving a vehicle on a racetrack. Like, it is unbelievable to me, the technology that is put into video games, that they're able to make things look so realistic.
Yeah, and again, going in, that's essentially a updated version of the engine that the team over at Playground will be using for the upcoming Fable in the next year, 2, 3, 4 years, whenever that's ready. Your first pick this year was Starfield, which 85 I feel is pretty safe. Personally, I had it getting slightly lower. I always said going in that critics were going to be much harsher on it, expecting the magic Microsoft money to sort of fix all the problems that Bethesda games have. Didn't super happen, still kind of a buggy mess, not exactly what people wanted out of it, but it's still, I think the last update was like over 11 million players, which again, thanks Game Pass for that, but...
I love Starfield. I haven't completed the main storyline yet. I know you have completed the main storyline. I know a lot of people have done multiple playthroughs on it. I am a Bethesda ride or die. Skyrim is my all-time favorite video game of all time. Multiple playthroughs on multiple different classes over the multiple console generations. I have it on Xbox. I have it on my Switch. I have just always been an Elder Scrolls lover. Fallout was never really totally my thing. I enjoyed it. I just couldn't get into the story as much as I could, but I'm more of like a high fantasy setting when it comes to genres that I enjoy.
Theming to it.
Yeah. And I love the whole dragons and like being in the Dark Ages. I don't know. So Starfield I did like, though. I liked the space aspect of it. The space travel was not my favorite, and the updating and upgrading your ship, and that was not my favorite thing, but just the missions themselves and getting to explore the different planets, I did enjoy that.
And now we're on the 8-year wait for Elder Scrolls 6 to come out, eventually. Following that, you hit Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is probably the safest thing you could have done this year.
And that's exactly why I picked it.
But even now, looking back, like, when that came out, everyone was pretty much safely saying, like, oh, this is Game of the Year for sure, has it locked down. But now, as the months have gone on, I don't think it's going to win anymore at this point. It has too much, like, harsh competition. People are finally coming out and being like, oh, it's more of the same, which is fine. Play it safe. The Switch is on its last year. We have rumors of Switch 2 next year.
Well, and I'm not anyone that's ever played. I'm not a big Nintendo consumer. I play the occasional Pokemon game. I'm really big into Pikmin 4 right now. Has been my bread and butter the last couple weeks. But I have never played a single Legend of Zelda game ever. Oh, exact opposite. How can you not love Skyrim? It's the best. But like I was saying about Legend of Zelda, I always got the impression of Tears of the Kingdom is that people never really played it for the story per se. People wanted to just mess around in engine and see what they could get the game to do before it broke. Like, people were creating the crazy ships and trying to bug their way through the different little puzzle aspects of the game. Nobody played the game from start to finish thinking, wow, this is the best story of the year. This was just the best Nintendo sandbox of the year, essentially.
Yeah. Which is fine. Like
It was totally fine, absolutely.
It's good. I don't think it has the game of the year as on lock as much as the first one did, but as I said, going into Switch 2, it's kind of slowing their output a little bit going into the next generation. My second pick was Street Fighter 6, which actually scored a 92. I think
was
to
so
a lot
blown
of
away
people's
by that.
surprise, a lot of people's surprise. Street Fighter 5 sort of landed shallow and didn't really pick itself back up. I think for a lot of people, I know the fan base kind of fell off hard, and it just got drug along for so many years that people had their fill of it and wanted something new. Street Fighter 6, I haven't played. I would like to eventually. Love the theming. I love the sort of like street graffiti style they have in the menus and pre-fight stuff. It's super amazing job out from the team over at Capcom.
Well, and the creative character too is so fun and unique as well.
Freak fights.
Freak fights.
Maximilian freak fights.
That's our bread and butter for sure. I don't know. I'm not a big fighting game style person. The only fighting game that I have ever played the campaign from start to finish was Mortal Kombat 11 10 years ago. So that's really my only experience with fighting games. I know you're a big why can't I think what it's called now? You're a big Mortal Kombat guy, but Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct is
Street Fighter's almost too hardcore for me. People that play that for the past 30 years of their life.
It's fun to watch Evo though every year to see how crazy people are with the game and how talented that the players are that do play it, and all the little fight decks, is that what they're called? That they custom make for their own little thing
fight
made
sticks,
out of fight sticks, excuse me, out of like old computers or like an Xbox shell or like a cardboard box. I just always think that's funny.
That's good. My third one following that was Final Fantasy 16. Personal big Final Fantasy fan. 15 was the last one, like main story besides the 14 Emergence that came out, which was fine. 16 was helmed by, I believe the name's escaping me right now, but one of the guys in charge of the Kingdom Hearts series. So combat was very stylized along those lines. First one, I think, since the original set that was sort of the European high fantasy, like knights and kings and castles and stuff, and kind of steered away from this more steampunk aesthetic they had. Great game. Drug on a little too long for me personally. We played it together.
We played it.
I played through, but it was fine. Icons, summons, all that stuff was great to look at. Very much felt along the lines as well. They picked up the combat director from the Devil May Cry series to come in on this. So if you're a fan of that sort of action combat, keeping your style meter up and getting longer combos or higher score sort of thing, should be right up your alley.
Oh, it absolutely was. Voice acting, phenomenal. Animation, phenomenal. Storytelling, phenomenal. I honestly think, I don't know if we're going to do an episode or if you're going to do an episode with Game of the Year. For me, personally, as much as I do love Starfield, this is my Game of the Year. I really, truly feel for how much love there was for the game and how much love there was for the Final Fantasy series as a whole. I feel like if this isn't Game of the Year, it will definitely be nominated in other categories for animation, for music. Oh my gosh, the soundtrack. I could just listen to the soundtrack just in my car, honestly. It's just so beautiful.
It's good. And yeah, speaking of the Game of the Year, I would like to do, I believe Jeff Keighley's said that they would have the nominations and stuff up mid-November before the show in December. So I would like to do an episode kind of running through those and what we think would win. Your third one, Like a Dragon Gaiden, Man Who Erased His Name. One of the only games that isn't out yet. I believe it's out actually a week from today. I'm excited. It sucks. We'll get further down because you also picked up, I'll just throw it out here, Like a Dragon Ishin, which came out, I think, back in February.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just been so much this year. They had
it got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, well, it just in Like a Dragon alone, like they had the success from Like a Dragon 2 years ago, and then in this 1 year they had Ishin at the beginning, Man Who Erased His Name coming out next week, and then within 2 months, the next one comes out.
I
like
don't even remember
end
what it's
of
called.
January.
Yeah.
Infinite Wealth.
Oh yeah.
So within a 12-month time span, you get 3 games that are all 100+ hour time sinks. It just sucked for me. I would
People
like to.
love Like a Dragon though.
I love Like a Dragon,
and that's why I picked it, because I knew I am one that I kind of hedge my bets a little bit. I'm not always necessarily, I'll pick my big games like Starfield, like Legend of Zelda, that I know are going to get me a ton of points. But I also like to sprinkle in there a couple little indie darlings, and also games that I know might not get me the most points. But if those of you who are watching our stream as well as listening along, you can see I got a lot of 11s and 12s in my column because I knew I was going to get points off of those. Were they the most points? No, but I was still putting points on the board because some of us got negative points on more than one game.
Yeah. Ishin, though, I'm surprised because if I remember right, this was the first time it was released natively in the West, and it didn't get really great reviews when it came out back on PS2. Like, it was sort of an off-the-wall thing that people didn't really attach onto.
But that's the whole thing about ports and re-releases, especially if it's an older game that has never been over here in America. The love and the adoration for the series that people are getting now, especially with the games being on Game Pass, they're like, oh, well, now we got to check out these older games too to see how they measure up to the new games. So that's why I was like, I've got to get this on my list, because even if it doesn't get me a ton of points, there is going to be enough backing of the series that I'm going to score middle of the road on this.
It's good. Mm-hmm. That was 2 years. Like I said, I believe Meta Race's name is out next week on the 8th. Mm-hmm. Also launching into Game Pass. My next one was Spider-Man 2. One of the other super safe bets. Spider-Man Original, I was super mid with. We played it. I had to return to it a few times to actually get through and beat it. But the second one, having a lot more fun. It's a lot more focused on missions and not as much the sort of, I know what happens still, but the Mary Jane stealth missions and stuff, a lot of that's taken away. And it's just more focused on what it is. It's more of the same. If you didn't like the first one a lot, you're not going to like this. I will say, I don't even think I told you this yet. Spider-Man 2 is sort of the catalyst for, I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after, but the next episode of the podcast, I'm bringing on Mr. Tim.
Oh, fun! I love Tim.
One of the main characters, I believe her name is Hannah, is fully deaf. She does not talk. They fully sign language with her, which got my mind running on sort of like inclusivity on games. Not saying that Tim's handicapped, but being a gay male, married man, like that sort of thing in gaming I would like to touch on, because you see a lot of stuff like it feels sort of shoehorned in to sort of check a box, and how that actually relates to their sort of community if they find that offensive or whatnot. So I would like to do an episode on that, and I've been talking to him for some episode this month. We're going to talk about it, because he also now has his own podcast.
Yes.
That they're like 7 episodes in with his friend Chris. They, them, I'm not sure, I believe. But yes.
Also with Marvel's Spider-Man 2, I'm not a big PlayStation guy. I never have been. I've always been pretty much Xbox forward. We're a Microsoft household. It's the first story I thought was interesting. I thought it was okay. I enjoyed watching you play it just in downtime when I was doing things on my phone or playing on my own console, but it was not really a game that I was ever like, I've got to get to play this. And even honestly watching you play through this one, I'm even less interested in this one. I like the Miles aspect of it, and I like the flip-flopping back and forth between the Miles and the Peter segments, but I don't know. Spider-Man has never been my favorite comic book character. I mean, I don't really find his character like that interesting, I guess. I don't know. It's just not, I feel really badly because the game itself is wonderful to play. It's not buggy. The graphics are great.
Insomniac things.
I am more excited for the Wolverine game going to be coming out in the next couple years than I was excited for either one of these Marvel games.
Boy, do you have years to wait. Following that was my first dud, sadly. Hollow Knight Silksong I picked up. It was part of Xbox's showcase last June in 2022, where they did their sort of everything you see today will be released in the next 12 months. Which, not saying Hollow Knight's their fault, because it is a third-party thing. They're not directly involved. They're just helping with marketing. But the way that game's been developed in general, it originally was just going to be a DLC for Hollow Knight and turned into its own standalone game that they're really trying to nail down. So give that team all the time they want. I would expect next year, if they thought that they were going to hit 2023 at some point, I would expect 2024, middle, fall even. I haven't played the first one. Oh, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Metroidvania. I attempted it for about 5 minutes and gave up because of the map, and I got lost and upset. Your follow-up was Octopath Traveler 2.
I have never played any of the Octopath, though obviously this is only the second iteration of the Octopath games, but I have never played the first one. I know nothing about the plot. I know nothing about the story. I know it's pixel art and it's turn-based, I believe,
Yep.
or you only get certain amount of turns.
It's very much in the style of the original Final Fantasies, and sort of harkening back to that.
Hate turn-based games. If I see that a game, one, if it's top-down, that's a big drawback for me, and if it's turn-based, I am absolutely not about it. I'm pretty much either like an open world or RPG girly, not a turn-based tactical game player, but I am chronically online on both Twitter and YouTube, and I see all the hype lists and I see all the love that the original Octopath game gets, and I knew again that was going to be a nice safe bet that the girlies were going to come out in droves for Octopath Traveler. So, and I was absolutely correct. I got a nice crisp 15 points for that. So
11 points, you liar. Oh no, yeah, 15.
Yeah,
sorry.
15. I know I can read.
I was looking at the next one. Following that, you picked up Pikmin 4, which got you 18, and you're currently playing that. I know you picked it up when it came out.
Pikmin. I did. I've never played a Pikmin game before. It's always something I've seen online. I watched the showcase for it, and I'm like, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to try to be a Nintendo fan. You're a huge Nintendo fan. I would say that you're almost as big of a Nintendo gamer as you are Xbox or PC gaming as well. You've always been huge into the Mario games and the Pokemon games. That's always been your kind of bread and butter here. Nintendo console, the handheld has never been my thing. I get the buttons mixed up. I'm constantly just randomly pressing things, and I don't know, it's just handheld, like the handheld gaming. I never grew up having like a Nintendo DS or anything like that. I mean, we had a Wii growing up because every household in America had a Wii growing up. So Mario Kart was really my only Nintendo game that I ever have any recollection of playing. But yeah, I picked up Pikmin 4 when it first came out, and I played it for approximately 1 hour, and the tutorial was so long. And I was like so burnt out just from the tutorial section. I was like, just let me get into the game. So I put it on the shelf and it got all nice and dusty. And then about 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Pikmin a try again. And then now I have spent every waking moment of my life playing Pikmin. If I'm not at work, I'm at home playing Pikmin. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. The little Pikmins are so cute. The little onions are cute. Otachi or Ochi, however you pronounce the little dog creature's name, absolutely adore him. I love everything about this game. I was going to be a Pikmin for Halloween, but I decided against it. But no, I'm all in on Pikmin, and the 18 points I got for that game, I wish would have been a little bit higher, because I thought because there had been such a long time between Pikmin 3 and Pikmin 4 that there would be a bigger pop for it, but I'm not going to complain about 18 points. Especially since somebody else put a lock on it, so they lost out on 18 points for that, so sucks.
Yeah, no, it's still very much a niche thing. It's one of their smaller franchises they have, so 18 is fair. My first dud was immediately followed up by my second dud. I picked up Tekken 8. I fully expected this year just being massive for fighting games. We knew coming in Street Fighter would be out. We knew Mortal Kombat was coming. And having Tekken 8 in the same year would have been dope. I missed out. I think it's like the second week of January now, so it's like just
I'm
right on the
honestly
edge.
glad, though, that they did push Tekken back, and I think that Tekken's team did a good job of realizing, holy shit, Street Fighter 6 was so big. Oh my god, Mortal Kombat is so big. We're going to push this back to at least give us a fighting chance of getting some kind of recognition out of and being a first big pick. There you go, babe. You can pick
See,
it right off the
it's
rip for
big.
next.
It's big, but it's wildly different.
I have
from other
never played a
fighting
Tekken
games.
game. I have never seen a Tekken game. I mean, there's always like the fighting games. You know who Ryu is because they jump genres and they're in all of the different things and they make cameos in other games. And is Ken a Tekken character or is he?
Both of those are Street Fighter characters.
Oh, well, see, I don't even know. Okay, well, now I've just completely made a fool of myself. I don't know a single Tekken character. I could not tell you anything about Tekken whatsoever. Is Tekken the one with the big guy with the big red spiky hair? Like, that looks like an old man, kind of? Or is that Street Fighter also?
Also Street Fighter, I believe.
Okay, well, see, yeah. I know zero about Tekken. It is not in any realm of any video game I've ever played.
But no, it's wildly different from the other two. Like, where the other two are traditional 2D games, it's set up on a 3D plane like the Naruto games I was playing. Mm-hmm. The 3D environment you're running around that's how Tekken is.
That sounds horrible.
So it's a vastly different experience than your typical fighting game. Following that, I picked up Horizon Call of the Mountain, the Horizon VR game for PSVR 2. Only 10 points. I was expecting a lot more just based off of 2 years ago. I was absolutely ruined by counterpicking Half-Life Alyx because I'm a VR hater and it bit me in the ass this year.
VR hater till I die. Yeah. That is why you got no points for it. It is because it is a VR game and nobody bought the whatever
$500 headset.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I honestly, maybe I am a VR hater. I will be a VR hater till I die. It makes me absolutely disgustingly motion sick to play any kind of virtual reality game. It's as soon as I put the headset on and as soon as I turn the camera on, instant headache, instant nausea. I gotta take that off. But I don't know. I think people are past it. I really do. I think it was a cool, novel thing 5-6 years ago when it first came out. I thought everybody was like, this is the future of gaming. But then people actually bought them and started playing on them and seeing how inferior the graphics are on the VR versus just regular console playable games. And the price. The average consumer cannot afford groceries in America, and you want them to shell out $500 plus for a headset? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
not a chance.
Sony dropping the ball, which is fine. That's Sony being Sony. They're still the market leader everywhere you look.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the next couple years here, VR will make a complete and total resurgence, and everyone will be playing. I love my Quest 2. See, no. Don't agree with you there, Kyle. I'm a VR hater. I'm sorry.
No, not the only way forward. Which it's not. That's the thing with VR. A lot of the stuff now, you have your few standouts like Half-Life Alyx and stuff, but a lot of the games are very much a novelty, gets you in the door. This is what we could do.
But is Half-Life Alyx so big because it was a good game or because it's made by Valve?
No, it was a good game.
Okay.
Like, it was 10 out of 10.
I've never played Half-Life Alyx. I don't know any of the story for the Half-Life games.
They're very much getting you in the door and what the future could be, as you said. But as of now, it's not commercially viable to put that out at a mass market and take a loss on it. Mm-hmm. Following up, your next was Lies of P, getting on the Soulsborne train. Neither of us have touched this or will touch this.
Nope.
The most I know about it is from Kyle, who's actually in the chat, streamed it one night, and I was up for about 2 hours. Watched him run his face into a boss a couple times, beat it, and run his face to a couple other people, and that was it.
I like the idea of Soulsborne games, and I love the beautiful, grotesque, horribly gory, freakish, Cthulhu-like ugly monsters in them. I thought Elden Ring was such a beautiful game and the story was nice and compelling. I don't like hard video games and I don't understand. And I know that people love that. They get that adrenaline pumping and it's a challenge and they have to beat it. I work in a very mentally taxing profession. When I come home from work, I want to turn on Disney Dreamlight Valley and run around with my little Disney princesses and garden. Or I want to turn on Pikmin and throw little onion blossoms at water monsters. I don't want to do anything that makes me sad or angry or break my controller. Cough, cough.
No, it's nice, and a lot of people have said that this is one of the Souls likes that have gotten it down the best. That's not specifically made by From Software. That the way they have their setup and just the controls and movement and everything feels the most From Soft that any of the other countless Souls likes have been. So I know they already have plans for DLC. I've been talking about that. I would expect a sequel or two in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Shout out to that studio. I think it's their first project they've done, a Korean studio, if I'm not mistaken. Following that, you picked up Hogwarts Legacy, which I think was one of the bigger surprises of the year. We both picked it up. You really enjoyed it. I
loved it.
100%ing it on Xbox, despite all the controversy around it and people behind the game and that sort of thing. It's a solid experience. I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting a second one in the near future, in a year or two now that the basis is down.
It's so tough because I was a staunch lover of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, and I used to always just love falling into that fantasy world of like the Hogwarts-esque style things. But just with how much of a shitbag J.K. Rowling is in real life, and me personally being a woman who is part of the LGBTQIA community, having somebody that you looked up to the majority of your life then turn around and just completely dog a community that you're part of and act like you, because you're a cis-normative woman, that you're better than any other group of people, and then the racial undertones towards the Jewish community as well. It was really tough. As much as I loved the game and I loved the graphics and I loved the missions and everything about the game and customizing my character and all the transmog and getting to create your own little room of requirement, I absolutely adored it. But it was such a double-edged sword that as much as I did want to love the game more, I just couldn't stomach playing it for that long.
Yeah, no, it's, like I said, despite controversy, I more acceptable to putting that in the back of my mind and not focusing on it. But it was a solid game. Story was a little to be desired. The main story kind of fell off and very basic, what you would expect from sort of a wizard magic background game.
I mean, yeah, no, it wasn't my favorite story of any game I've ever played, but the side quests, finding all the little beasts and the decorating your house and the Quidditch stuff, I loved that. It was always really fun.
Back to my duds. Following Call of the Mountain, I ended up picking up Redfall, which I picked up after they did their, I think it was January, they did the surprise showcase where they dropped Hi-Fi Rush. And that trailer really turned me around. I was super skeptical going in on it. I was super worried about what the game was becoming and how far off it was from Arcane's other titles. And it proved me right, sadly. Game came out, and one of the worst reviewed games that Xbox has ever had. I know you really liked it.
I love it. I loved Redfall. We played it all the way through, and it was honestly one of my favorite games that I've played this year. We didn't have, but I don't know, maybe it's just us. We didn't have any of the buggy crashes or horrible like frame rates that people were getting.
We had a few crashes, but it's beyond that. It's more of the foundation of the game being made and like the wide stretches without enemies or enemies not reacting to you or AI just being wonky and stuff getting stuck into walls. Like, it was...
See, but again, this is me being a casual gamer who I don't notice things like that because I don't play serious enough games to really notice stuff like that happening.
Yeah, you're not actively looking out for stuff like that.
No, I was just running around like, look at the scenery, look at the vampires. And I mean, although it is not a horror game, there was a couple times where you'd walk into a building or walk into a crypt and one of them would, and it was dark. Even with your flashlight, it was a dark game. And a vampire would jump around the corner and I would be like, ah! I definitely got a couple jump scares from it. And I really did like the plot, the story of the game too. I thought was a very interesting premise for a vampire game. Don't be a hater. I love vampires. I was a Twilight freak in the early 2000s. I've always been on the vampire hype train, so maybe that's why, because my little 12-year-old vampire lover heart just wanted to play something like that, but I liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite games that we played this year, honestly.
No, and to their credit, the team's sticking with it. I know they just released an update, I think a month ago, that fixed a lot of problems. It was something like 200 or 300 plus fixes they had in their first major update, where a lot of people are enjoying it now. Like, the AI was fixed, enemies placement was fixed, a lot of the
See, we could play it again and play different characters.
There's so much other stuff that I need to play. So shout out to them. It's all teams take a bump. The Destiny community is experiencing that right now, sadly.
Rest in peace, Bungie.
Yeah. They're turning it around and working on it. They're not just letting it out to die, which is good on Microsoft for letting the team do that. Following that, I picked up AEW Fight Forever. My next dud, minus 11 points. This was just a whim to get my list filled up. We haven't played it, but again, that game is almost near broken. People falling through the mat, items not working correctly, character models not loading correctly.
Which is so sad.
People floating in midair.
We love AEW. We watch AEW every
AEW
week.
Fans. Game's just not good.
I've never played any of the old wrestling games, so I didn't really get the hype for it. I knew it wasn't something that I was ever going to play. But yeah, watching all the reviews online and the React highlight channel that we subscribe to, showing all their glitches and bugs in the game is mildly hilarious.
Following Hogwarts Legacy for you, picked up Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which again, another Souls-like. Surprise launched in the Game Pass, I believe it was announced beforehand, but it is done by Team Ninja. Very much follows Chinese folklore and demons and mythology and stuff, and those are the sort of enemies you're fighting. Did fine. I don't think it really hit internal numbers that team wanted, but another Souls-like.
Another 11-point game that I knew absolutely nothing about, that I spent a good chunk of my afternoon one day scrolling through Fantasy Critic websites and blogs on Reddit and Twitter threads, and shout out to Kind of Funny Games, reading through their lists and kind of making my own list, like, okay, if these guys, well, and Janet Garcia, obviously, who are big in the industry and they know video games and they know what is going to review well. I believe it was Paris that picked it for his draft board. So I was like, okay, well, Paris Lilly knows everything. So if he's picking it, then I absolutely should pick it on my board as well, because he knows much more than I. So, and it did. It served me well. I got another 11-point game.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's, again, nothing we'll ever touch. Another Souls-like.
Oh, God, no, I'll never play in a million years.
Good for them. Following up, you had Mortal Kombat 1, which 84, I think, is pretty much right.
I could not imagine it getting any higher.
No,
I was surprised it got that high.
It's good for what it is.
I love it so far, though. You've been playing it.
I beat it yesterday, actually.
Without me?
Yes.
I'm crushed.
Beat it yesterday. It's nothing more than you would expect from a normal Mortal Kombat storyline. I know the online community's in an uproar currently because NetherRealm does their typical things of, here's our first patch notes for the game, and instead of slight incremental changes, they just take a hatchet to every character and nerf everyone to the ground and buff everyone to the sky, so everything's kind of in a mess. Omni-Man, first DLC character, I believe, is out next week as well on the 9th or 19th. Super good combat pack for them with him, Ermac, Peacemaker. Just a really good, diverse list of characters. Sonic Superstars was my next one. Only 74, which I think it's just the Sonic curse at this point.
It is.
Everyone liked it, but I've seen sales numbers. I think Japan, it came out that right before Mario Wonder it released, and it only sold like 19,000 units, while Mario Wonder was selling in the 100,000 units.
Jesus Christ.
So I think it's just being eclipsed by Mario at that point.
Well, and not only that, how many just bad Sonic games have come out in the last decade or so? Like,
Not many. Like, they've turned stuff around, honestly. Sonic 06 was bad. So a couple of the ones when we were bad, but like Generations was great on 360. Played that I think 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Sonic Mania, I know that was sort of a fan game they brought in, but that sort of went back to its roots. But it's just crazy because this is such a drastic contrast from how well they're doing with Yakuza, all being from Sega. I know there's the rumors and talk of, oh, Xbox needs to buy Sega next and all this, but
I think Xbox can cool their jets, and
Yeah.
Microsoft can cool their jets with buying smaller studios, just for a year or two. Let Big Daddy Phil get his bearings
needs a
with
rest
all
before
these
he has a
new.
heart attack.
Yeah, let him get these teams settled and stop making Call of Duty games
Yeah.
for a couple years. Give the people a break from Call of Duty. Let the smaller studios make other games. Let Treyarch do something else. Please, for the love of God.
And finishing up mine, I picked up Metal Slug Tactics. I'm honestly super excited for it. I'm not really big into tactics games. It's really got to be something special.
Not for me.
I love Metal Slug on arcade as a kid,
Mhm.
and having that as sort of a top-down, movement-based game sounds great. I don't know what happened to this. It's something I've really followed up on. I'm assuming just delayed till next year because they need more time. And then Persona 5 Tactica I picked up because Persona fans are rabid and crazy.
Literally crazy.
Out on the 17th, it's same thing, Tactics. They're doing another offshoot of Persona 5 because of how wildly popular and huge that game grew to be. They're touching every sort of angle they can. They milked it with the Dynasty Warriors spinoff, and now they're going to a Tactics spinoff.
Hey, I mean, don't fix what ain't broke.
No, it's money, literally printing money. To finish yours off, Blasphemous 2. Something I don't even think either of us can even talk on. We've seen gameplay of the first one.
Gerard the Completionist is the only reason I even knew about the Blasphemous game, and he gave it high remarks.
Yeah.
And I do know that always shows up on Indie Darling lists on the top 10 indie games from this XYZ year. Blasphemous is on every list. Not the top one, whatever. But I do love the pixelated art style of it. Again, the kind of grotesque, eerie, gory. I love that. I'm a big spooky game player. Not saying Blasphemous is a spooky game, but it does give spooky game
It's got
aesthetic.
Gothic aesthetic on it.
Gothic aesthetic is a big thing for me. So, will I ever play it? Absolutely not. Too difficult for me. But I am glad that it did give me a cool 14 points.
And then Plucky Squire.
So angry.
So
I
angry.
am literally so beyond angry. Mainly, first reason I'm angry, I spent my last 10 points in Fantasy Critic to pick up this game because we were told that whatever showcase that we watched in July,
Yeah, E3 time, June.
this game is a shoo-in. It's coming out this year. It's gonna be Game of the Year contender. And then not even 3 weeks later, full stop, rescinding everything we said about it. This game's not coming out this year. It's getting pushed back to whenever in January,
give
if
'em
even
time.
then it's coming out. How many times are they gonna push back Plucky Squire?
As much time as they need.
Give me the game!
No, let them work on it, do their thing.
No, and that's
you
totally
rush
fine.
stuff and you end up with Redfall 2.0.
Well, absolutely. So no, I am very happy that they aren't trying to rush it out to beat whatever holiday rush that they were trying to get it in beforehand. I am just wildly upset because that was my shoe-in game. With that, I would have sealed my victory, but unfortunately now because of that game, I'm going to lose by 20 points.
You still have a chance. It literally
Oh, well,
depends
I
on
guess
Gaiden. You just gotta get 10.
I'm going to get that cool crisp 11 points for Gaiden
Yeah. You got a chance.
and sweep times 2 electric boogaloo my way to a finish.
But that was it. That was our 2 lists. We had 2 other people that we can't really get readily available to do something like this.
They live very
But-
far away.
No, it was still a great year. I mean, we went through a bunch of major releases on our other list here. Obviously, stuff Jedi Survivor is picked up, Armored Core is picked up, Dead Space Remake, which now also just launched on Game Pass, Alan Wake 2, which is blowing everything out of the water compared to what I think a lot of people were expecting from that game.
You being
Yeah,
one of
no,
those
I
people.
was-
I told Jocko from day one when our friend Avery, who is this list, Avery picked Alan Wake 2, and I said, oh, that's such a great pick. You're going to get so many points with that, Jacob. Oh, that was like a niche little thing. Nobody even played the original Alan Wake game. And I said, you have lost your marbles because the people on the internet are fucking feral for Alan Wake.
The original, it just wasn't a massive, like, critical...
Just because a game is not a critically acclaimed game, it doesn't mean that the girlies are not going to go absolutely bananas for it.
But it was locked on 360 back in the day, a one console thing, so it was limited to who it reached.
People love Alan Wake.
Yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 is also in here, the other big surprise hit, which I think has a larger chance at Game of the Year now than Zelda, as wild as that is. Still waiting on it on Xbox. I know they still promised the 2023 release. If I had to guess, first, second week in December. I don't think it'll hit the holiday window before Black Friday. Diablo 4 was also this year. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Middling reviews. I honestly thought it would do a lot better just because it was going back to the roots that people always said they wanted and they don't really want when they see it firsthand.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder, she got a ton of points for that.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder, great. Also out on the 20th of October.
Really disappointed in Valheim that it didn't get a review score because I think it's an early access, so she would have gotten quite a few points for it if we would have actually been scored. But
yeah,
and then same for Final Fantasy Ever Crisis. Everything that I found online for this game was getting 9s and 10s, and that it's like the best mobile game
because it didn't get enough reviews
ever, but because it wasn't reviewed by enough specific review companies, Fantasy Critic wouldn't give it a game. I told Jacob, because he's the commissioner of the league, that he should have just gone ahead and given her a manual score for it, because it absolutely deserves to be scored. But this was Morgan's first year ever playing with us. She is very much like me. She's more of a casual gamer. She's huge into the Diablo franchise. She is not a first-person shooter game. She's big into the Stardew Valleys and the Elder Scrolls and such, so... But, anyway, That is our Fantasy Critic for the year, so... Fingers crossed, friends, that I get those magic 11 points, that I can win my second year in a row, but I'm not thinking too much so far.
No, and this year, overall, I think this was probably the most high-score year we'll have. Mm-hmm. As I said, with the amount of 90-plus games this year, I see 2024 sadly being a way not shallow, but less packed year of releases.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
2023 was a lot of the COVID delays, a lot of...
Everyone was chomping at the bit to get their games out that had to be delayed for so many years because of the COVID that they're just like, get it out. We got new things to work on.
There was a surge of releases, and literally every week for a time there was something major coming out. So 2024...
That September to beginning of October range was insane for game releases.
Yeah, that was good. I know at least Xbox next year, I think they already have Flight Simulator 2024 is for sure next year. What's the other? Hellblade 2 for sure next year. And Tower...
That game's never coming out.
It's next year. And Towerborn, I think they have locked as early access thing next year. PlayStation, no idea. Their Spider-Man 2's out. All we know after that is Helldivers 2. And Nintendo's doing whatever the hell Nintendo does. They have the RPG remake coming out this month as well now, and Switch 2 sometime next year. Which at this point,
Nintendo's just over in Japan printing their own money. So
they're doing Nintendo things. But that was it. That was our Fantasy Critic League for this year, 2023. Sadly taking third place, but it's fine. We don't talk about it. And that was, I think we'll end. We are at 50 minutes. Longest episode we've had so far with a guest. Yay.
Hooray!
Thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome.
And supporting me in my wild endeavors.
I would like to be invited back, hopefully.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I'd like to do something on the Game of the Year nominations, run through that list when Jeff posts those.
Absolutely.
Hopefully tonight, depending on time, if I can get it done, or if not tomorrow, I will have my multiple-page story time with my love and hate relationship with World of Warcraft over the years in time for BlizzCon tomorrow. Opening ceremonies, I think, are at 11 a.m. our time. I'll miss live, but we'll for sure be watching after work. Mm-hmm. For sure, rating new Overwatch 2 hero confirmed. The Warcraft Rumble which launched early. I've been playing it on my phone a little bit today, dabbling in it. Next to World of Warcraft expansion and whatever they're doing with WoW Classic. And hopefully, although I was thinking about it today, hopefully the console announcement for World of Warcraft. If it's not here, I would almost guarantee at E3 next year for their showcase in June. Just to keep that more of like an Xbox thing and not take away from the new expansions and stuff coming out. And whatever new stuff they have for Diablo 4. I know they have rumors of Project Odyssey being announced, which is their sort of new survival, not necessarily live service title.
They got a quote with live service titles.
Yeah, but their
We're
new
also sick of that.
survival game that's been in the works for like 8-9 years, whatever. A lot of rumors of that circling around.
Mhm.
Personally, I think it's a little while farther out than that, but we'll see. Opening ceremonies tomorrow, BlizzCon all weekend. Fun times.
Well, and then me today, actually, we spent the better part of last night creating me a World of Warcraft character now that Microsoft has exclusive rights to Blizzard and you've been a World of Warcraft lover for
Since the start.
since the beginning. You were an OG Warcraft player. I always saw it because you always used to see the Mr. T commercials and everything on TV, and I'd see it in Walmart and Target, whatever, the little full pack things, and always would just kind of be like, oh my gosh, who actually plays these games? And then we started dating. I moved in here and he's got all this World of Warcraft memorabilia and stuff, and he's going through the lore and showing me his characters, and I'm like, what?
We broke down. We remembered that you can do controller input on PC, and that's what
I'm
really
not a
did it.
PC gamer. My little long pointy fingernails are not conducive for being on a computer, so I was like pushing buttons and clicking, and it was not good. And I just happened to look at me like, can we not just plug the controller into your PC? And you're like, wait, we can do that. So yeah, spent the better part of last night and this morning key binding and mapping out controller input for me. Hopefully Warcraft comes to Game Pass here soon, or I shouldn't say Warcraft
I
because
would
that's a
love
different game, but World of Warcraft on Game Pass.
Get rid
You
of the
will
subscription.
you'll never see us again.
I know that would be a huge money hit on them, or even just the discount at this point, but the $15 a month for that game
That's
in 2023
that's
is
outrageous.
insane.
My thing is with so many free to play games that there is in the market right now, and with the Microsoft or with X Game Pass being such a great deal. Game Pass is the best deal in gaming.
No, it would be huge. Like I said, it's just wild because they're one of the few games that's still pushing the subscription service. I don't think even like Final Fantasy 14 does it anymore.
Oh, really?
But they're pushing the subscription service, plus having an in-game store for level boosts and XP boosts and cosmetics, mounts, and just whatever else. Like they're double dipping everywhere they can for income, which I get it's a big game. But now that it's off far beyond the high horse that WoW used to be,
Put it on Game Pass and get an entire new generation of
Yeah.
players that never could afford to play it on PC. Gaming PCs are expensive. I don't know anybody besides you in my own personal life growing up. People had Xbox, people had PlayStation, people had Nintendo consoles. I don't know anyone growing up personally that had a gaming computer because it was just not for the average gamer. You got to be really serious about it if you want to play it. And I think that realistically, a casual player like me who's not going to just be grinding and dungeon crawling, whatever, just wants to play for a couple hours a day, sit on the couch while watching Netflix or something in the background and do a little raid or something, and it'd be great. I would absolutely love it. I'll play the shit out of it if they put it on Game Pass.
which I think they're more apt to do. I could see them almost doing World of Warcraft Lite, almost,
Which would
where
totally
it's a
be fine.
severely limited version of the game that is on console, or have that version on Game Pass to sort of get people's foot in the door.
Mhm.
Have it be you could level up to max level, but like raids and stuff are locked off. Lock off auction house, just limited in
Yep.
certain ways. I don't know
completely
how
agree
that
with
would necessarily go over, but a way to get people's foot in the door.
We gotta get Phil on the
After
phone. Phil.
last year's wild partnership with Riot Games and
Mhm.
opening up all the League of Legends champions and stuff to Game Pass members was crazy enough as it is, with
Mhm.
League of Legends being infinitely like a larger entity at this time,
Mhm.
which it got me back into it. Have all the champions currently and in the future just with Game Pass sub. I don't think anyone really saw that partnership coming, so PC
Hearthstone on console. That's
too.
all I
I'm
want
surprised
is
that's
Hearthstone
not
on
this.
console.
I'm surprised that's not at this point.
Me, never consumer of Warcraft, I love Hearthstone. I think it's phenomenal. Me who hates turn-based gaming, I love Hearthstone. I was really happy when they released Marvel Snap. I play the shit out of that on my phone too. So, alrighty.
But yeah, that was episode 3. Following up, you can follow us again at badlandsbacklogs.squarespace.com. Nothing new up, just our Forza Motorsport impressions still, and Sea of Thieves retrospective. Like I said, hopefully to get my World of Warcraft piece up tonight or tomorrow morning. Also at twitch.tv/thebacklogsgames, and Twitter, because we're not using X in this household, /badlandsbacklog for updates and first-hand thoughts and stuff going on in the industry. Again, this was Amulet from Badlands Backlogs, joined by Caitlin.
AndyCandy03 on Twitter.
Yeah, and Xbox. And that was it. Thank you guys for joining us.
Come on.